The world is on the brink of destruction. Alien ships fill the sky, and the Avengers are fighting tooth and nail to stop the invasion. In the chaos of battle, Spider-Man finds himself face to face with a mysterious alien, Zirin, who claims to be a hero in disguise. With the Avengers distracted, Zirin whispers a chilling secret. Another more dangerous alien is about to destroy Earth, and the only way to stop it is for Spider-Man to kill him. Torn by the gravity of the situation and the threat of planetary annihilation, Spider-Man makes a choice in the heat of the moment. He doesn't hesitate. He strikes. But as the alien falls, blood splatters across his suit. Something feels wrong. In the silence of the battlefield, Spider-Man realizes he's made a fatal mistake. The alien he killed was not the one who was going to destroy Earth. He just killed an innocent being, and worse, it was Zirin's plan all along. The air was thick with smoke and the distant hum of alien ships. The battle had ended, but Spider-Man couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. He stood alone in the shadows of the wreckage, the weight of his decision pressing down on him like a ton of bricks. He'd killed an alien. He thought it was Zirin, the alien warlord responsible for the invasion. But now, looking at the body of the creature he had slain, doubt crept into his heart. The alien's face was twisted in agony, but not in the way he'd expected a villain to look. In a daze, he swung back to Avengers Tower, his mind racing. What if he was wrong? What if he'd killed the wrong one? The thought gnawed at him, but he couldn't find a way to take it back. He hadn't had time to question the instructions. Everything was moving too fast. The invasion had been overwhelming, and when Zirin whispered his plan, Spider-Man acted without hesitation. But now the doubt was eating him alive. Back at the tower, the team was reassembling. They'd won the battle, but Spider-Man felt like he was losing everything. As he entered the command center, Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor were discussing their next move. They looked up as Spider-Man entered, but their faces were unreadable. Something was wrong. They knew. What happened out there, Spider-Man? Tony Stark's voice was sharp, his tone more serious than usual. There was no sarcasm or jokes, just cold suspicion. Spider-Man hesitated. His mouth felt dry. He wanted to tell them, to confess everything, but the words were stuck. He knew he'd made a mistake, but would they understand? Would they forgive him? I thought I was doing the right thing, Spider-Man finally stammered, his voice barely a whisper. Zirin the alien? I thought he was going to destroy Earth. I was trying to stop him, but I killed the wrong one. The words hit like a punch to the gut. There was a moment of silence before Captain America spoke, his voice low and dangerous. You killed what? What do you mean the wrong one? Spider-Man's stomach twisted. The alien I killed, it wasn't Zirin. It was Zelier. He was trying to protect Earth. He was trying to warn us. But I didn't know. His voice trailed off, guilt flooding in. Iron Man stepped forward, his face hardening. You killed an innocent? Without even confirming who they were? I didn't have a choice. Spider-Man shot back, panic rising in his chest. Zirin told me. Zirin? Thor interrupted, his voice booming. What do you mean Zirin told you? What's going on, Spider-Man? Why are you justifying killing an innocent life? The room was filled with tension. Spider-Man's heart pounded in his chest. He couldn't look any of them in the eye. The accusations, the disbelief, the horror, it was too much. He could feel their judgment crushing him. But it wasn't just their disappointment that stung. It was the realization that he had made a mistake so big, so devastating, it might tear the team apart. As they gathered around the alien's body, the truth began to unfold. Zelier had been an alien who had come to Earth to warn the Avengers about the true threat, Zirin. But Spider-Man's impulsive decision had sealed his fate. Now, instead of working together, the Avengers were questioning everything. They couldn't trust him. They couldn't trust each other. Captain America's voice was filled with cold fury. You've crossed the line, Spider-Man. We don't kill not like this. And you've put us all in jeopardy. I don't know how we move forward from this. Spider-Man's shoulders slumped. The words stung, but deep down he knew they were right. He'd let his fear and his emotions cloud his judgment. And now the consequences were unraveling, not just for him, but for the entire team. As the Avengers slowly turned their backs on him, Spider-Man realized that Zirin had already won. the division between them had begun. And this was only the beginning. Zirin had manipulated Spider-Man from the start, feeding him lies, twisting his perception. And now, the Avengers were divided, uncertain of who to trust and what was real. The alien warlord's plan was far from over. The real battle was just beginning. The atmosphere in Avengers Tower was thick with distrust. Spider-Man moved like a shadow among the team, each glance from his fellow heroes piercing him with the weight of their judgment. Every word he spoke seemed to fall on deaf ears, and the once united team now felt fractured. His confession had created a rift too wide to bridge easily. The Avengers had a rule: we don't kill. But Spider-Man had broken it, and that was unforgivable. The media caught wind of the news: Avenger kills innocent alien in battle, and it spiraled out of control. Public opinion was split, but the weight of the betrayal was clear. Even though Spider-Man had acted out of what he thought was a desperate necessity, his actions had cost him the trust of the public, and the fractured Avengers struggled to move forward. They needed answers. They needed a plan. But before any of that could happen, the real nightmare began to unfold. Zirin had been playing them all from the beginning. The team thought the battle was over, that the invasion was finished. But the truth was far worse. Zirin's true motives were revealed when the alien warlord made his move. With his ability to shapeshift, Zirin had infiltrated the ranks of the Avengers, working in the shadows to manipulate Spider-Man's decision. Xelier, the alien Spider-Man had killed, had been his true enemy's victim, not the protector he appeared to be. Zirin's voice echoed through the comm system, distorted and menacing. "You've all been played," he said, his words dripping with malice. "Spider-Man did exactly what I wanted him to. Now the Avengers are divided, and Earth is ripe for the taking." Suddenly, a pulse of energy surged through the room. The lights flickered as the walls trembled. A hologram of Zirin appeared, standing tall and menacing, his alien features shifting between grotesque forms, each more horrifying than the last. "You're all fools," Zirin's voice thundered. "I manipulated your emotions, Spider-Man. Your mistake was the first crack in your unity. The rest of the Avengers will soon turn on each other as I force them to question everything." The truth hit like a punch to the gut. Everything Spider-Man had done, every choice he made, had been part of Zirin's plan to fracture the Avengers. But it didn't end there. The shape-shifting alien had infiltrated their ranks long ago, posing as one of them, feeding them false information, creating division. Zirin had planted seeds of doubt and fear, knowing it would eventually lead to this moment: the Avengers' collapse. Suddenly, an explosion rattled the tower. The Avengers sprang into action, but it was too late. The true battle had begun. Zirin's forces were already inside, his shape-shifting soldiers blending seamlessly with the team, each one stirring chaos and confusion. The once mighty Avengers were now fighting not just for Earth, but for their own survival. Spider-Man's mind raced. The guilt that had weighed on him seemed almost insignificant in the face of this new threat. The team was divided. He had lost their trust, but now he had to fix this, and fix it fast. There was no time to second-guess. If they didn't unite, Zirin would win. But could they put their differences aside? "I'm sorry," Spider-Man said, his voice trembling. "I messed up, but we need to stop him, now." Iron Man was the first to react. His face was stoic, but his eyes betrayed a flicker of doubt. "We'll deal with this later. Right now we have a war to win." Thor and Captain America nodded in grim agreement. Spider-Man was still a member of the team, but he had to prove himself. He had to show that he was still worthy of their trust. Together, they charged forward. But as they fought through the corridors of Avengers Tower, something even worse began to unfold. More and more of Zirin's shape-shifting soldiers appeared, each one a twisted reflection of the Avengers, manipulating the team's emotions, playing on their fears and insecurities. Spider-Man struggled to keep his focus, but as he fought his way through the chaos, he couldn't shake the feeling that Zirin was watching him. Was this the real threat? Or was the battle they were fighting just a distraction? Suddenly, the ground shook beneath their feet. The tower was collapsing. "We need to take him down now," Captain America said, his voice cutting through the madness. "This is it. No more distractions." Spider-Man's heart raced. He had to make a choice. Save his team. Save Earth. It all hinged on one final confrontation. The Avengers had to work together. But could they truly overcome the seeds of betrayal that had been planted so deeply? The final showdown was about to begin, and Spider-Man knew one thing for sure. Zirin had made a fatal mistake. He underestimated the power of the Avengers. But the question remained, would they be able to unite in time, or would the weight of betrayal destroy them all? The Avengers charged through the crumbling hallways of the tower, their weapons drawn, eyes set on the central control room, where Zirin had revealed his true plan. Spider-Man, his heart heavy with the weight of his betrayal, moved swiftly alongside Iron Man and Captain America. Each step felt like a race against time as the tower's structure groaned beneath the pressure of the alien forces within. "This ends now." Captain America's voice rang out, but his words didn't carry the same certainty as before. There was hesitation in his tone. He had every right to be angry with Spider-Man, but the stakes had shifted. Now they were fighting not just for survival, but for redemption. Iron Man's voice crackled over the comms. "We're almost there, but you better pray we make it through this. You've got a lot of proving to do, kid." Spider-Man clenched his fists. He was still a part of this team, but he felt the distance between them grow with each passing second. Every time he looked at his teammates, the faces he once trusted, he saw the flicker of doubt in their eyes. It was like a chasm that was too wide to cross. But the battle wasn't over. Not yet. As they reached the control room, a chilling sight greeted them. Zirin in his true form, a towering, serpentine alien with translucent skin, glowing eyes, and an array of shifting appendages, stood in the center, his body writhing in every direction. Behind him, his army of shape-shifting soldiers had infiltrated the Avengers' ranks and stood poised to attack. They had all become enemies within their own walls. Zirin's laugh echoed throughout the room, the sound inhuman and cold. "So, the mighty Avengers are finally here, but I've already won." His voice was smooth, dripping with the satisfaction of victory. "I planted the seeds of doubt long ago. Spider-Man's mistake was only the beginning." Captain America's shield hit the ground with a loud clang as he took a step forward, his eyes locked on Zirin. "This is over. You won't destroy us from the inside. Not today." Zirin's shape-shifting form rippled, and with a flick of his wrist, his army of duplicates swarmed. They struck with brutal precision, forcing the Avengers to split their attention between battling their enemies and each other. The chaos was unbearable. Every hero was fighting a twisted version of themselves, an ally turned foe. Spider-Man's webbing flew out instinctively, but it wasn't enough. He had to fight these enemies, but at the same time, he had to repair the damage he'd caused. His mind was a whirlwind of guilt, but he couldn't afford to let it paralyze him now. Iron Man dove into the fray with his repulsors firing, sending blasts in every direction. Thor, swinging Mjolnir with lightning fury, cleared a path. But every strike was tainted with uncertainty. With each blow, Spider-Man saw glimpses of the distrust that still haunted the team. In the thick of the fight, Spider-Man found himself face-to-face with a shape-shifting version of himself, a twisted, distorted reflection. The duplicate wore his face, but its eyes were cold and devoid of the humanity Spider-Man once held dear. It was like fighting a ghost of his own guilt. "Is this what you wanted?" the duplicate mocked, its voice an eerie imitation of Spider-Man's own. "To destroy everything you work for? You killed an innocent. You doomed them all." Spider-Man's heart pounded, but he couldn't hesitate. He struck, using his webs to ensnare his own doppelganger, knocking it to the ground. But the fight wasn't just physical. It was emotional. With each strike, Spider-Man's guilt, his remorse, his failure echoed in his mind. He had to end this for them, for the team, for Earth. At that moment, Iron Man's voice cut through the chaos. "Spider-Man, focus. We need to take down Zirin. This battle isn't about guilt. It's about finishing what we started." Spider-Man nodded, shaking off the weight of his internal struggle. There was no time for regret now. Zirin was still standing tall, his grin wide, watching them struggle. It was time to end this. Captain America charged forward, his shield slamming into Zirin's form with incredible force. The alien warlord shrieked, his body flickering like a mirage. But Zirin was far from defeated. He lashed out with a wave of energy, sending Captain America sprawling backward. Thor leaped in next, his hammer crackling with electricity as he struck Zirin directly in the chest. The alien staggered, but his form was relentless. It was clear that brute force alone wasn't going to stop him. Spider-Man swung into action, his webs latching onto the ceiling and pulling him up for a high-angle strike. As he descended, he launched a barrage of webs, each one laced with a concentrated venom charge he'd developed in the lab. His webs wrapped around Zirin's body, binding him tightly. But Zirin's shape-shifting abilities fought back, ripping through the strands. Iron Man quickly calculated their next move. We need to hit him with everything we've got, together. Now, with no time to waste, the Avengers converged, working in unison to attack from all angles. Spider-Man used his webs to restrain Zirin long enough for Captain America to launch a series of shield strikes, Thor's lightning-infused blows adding to the force. Iron Man's repulsor blasts were relentless, and each hit was beginning to take its toll. But Zirin wasn't giving up. In a final act of desperation, he used his shape-shifting abilities to create multiple copies of himself, each one attacking the Avengers in every direction. It was pure chaos. They couldn't tell which version of Zirin was the real one. They were fighting not just for Earth's survival, but for their very unity. Spider-Man, realizing the only way to stop this was to outwit Zirin, dove into the chaos, weaving through the fight, his mind racing. He had a plan. He grabbed one of the alien duplicates by the leg and swung it into the real Zirin with every ounce of strength he could muster. The impact of the blow stunned Zirin long enough for Iron Man to deploy a final high-powered blast from his suit, hitting Zirin directly in the heart. The alien warlord screamed, his body flickering and distorting before finally collapsing into a pile of charred, smoking remains. For a moment, there was silence. But the battle wasn't truly over. The Avengers had won the fight. But could they ever truly mend the cracks Zirin had made in their unity? Spider-Man knew the road to redemption was long, and the true test was just beginning. The Avengers had survived, but the question remained. Could they ever be the same again? The battle was over. Zirin was gone, his reign of terror shattered, his army defeated. Avengers Tower lay in ruins, but the real damage wasn't in the structure. It was in the cracks that had formed within the team. As the smoke cleared and the sounds of battle faded, there was a heavy silence that hung in the air, a silence that spoke volumes. Spider-Man, still panting from the fight, stood near the wreckage, watching the rest of the team. Captain America and Iron Man were inspecting the remnants of the control room, their faces set with grim determination. Thor, ever stoic, was speaking with Dr. Strange, trying to assess the full extent of the mystical forces at play. Yet, despite the victory, something felt incomplete. There was no real celebration, no triumphant shouts. Spider-Man's thoughts raced. He had saved them. He had redeemed himself in that final moment, using his quick thinking to land the decisive blow on Zirin. But it wasn't enough. The cracks in the team were still visible, and the distance between him and his fellow heroes felt unbridgeable. As Spider-Man approached, Iron Man turned to face him. His expression was unreadable, his helmet reflecting the damage done to the tower's walls. "We couldn't have done it without you, kid," Tony said. His voice was neutral, but there was something in the way he said it, something Spider-Man couldn't quite place. Was it relief, or simply acknowledgement of necessity? Spider-Man nodded. He knew that Iron Man was right. Without his quick thinking, Zirin would still be a threat. Yet, that didn't change the fact that things had changed. Had they really forgiven him? Captain America spoke next, his voice firm but with an underlying weariness. He did what had to be done, but this can't just be swept under the rug. Killing an innocent alien, even by mistake, it has consequences for all of us. Spider-Man's chest tightened. "I know, and I'll carry that mistake with me for as long as I live. But I didn't do it out of malice. I was trying to protect everyone." "I get it," Captain America replied, his voice softening slightly. "But you broke something in us, Spider-Man. We don't just fight together, we trust each other. That trust, it's hard to rebuild once it's gone." Iron Man shot Captain America a look, but didn't interrupt. Spider-Man's heart sank. The weight of their words hit him like a tidal wave. He had done the right thing in stopping Zeren, but in the process he had unknowingly torn apart the very thing he had fought for all these years. The Avengers' unity. Thor stepped forward, his mighty presence calming the tension slightly. The war is over, but the scars remain. Yes, we shall all bear our wounds, and perhaps this team will never be what it once was. But you have proven that, despite your mistakes, you are a hero. And we need heroes now more than ever. Spider-Man looked at Thor, his shoulders sagging in exhaustion. I'm sorry, he whispered. I know I screwed up, but I'll do whatever it takes to make it right. I'll prove I can earn back your trust. Thor nodded gravely. Words alone are not enough, young one, but actions can heal. Show us your loyalty, and we shall see where this path leads. As the team gathered, a long, painful silence enveloped them. The alien threat was gone, but the internal war within the Avengers was far from over. Spider-Man had redeemed himself in the battle, but the damage to the team's trust would take time to heal. Later that evening, as the team sat in what remained of the war room, Spider-Man couldn't help but feel a sense of finality. There had been no grand speeches, no victory parade. The Avengers had won, but there was no easy path forward. The bonds they shared, the same bonds that had made them so strong, had been tested, and they had frayed under the pressure. Could they rebuild? Could they find a way to move past the betrayal? Spider-Man walked outside, looking up at the stars. The city lights flickered in the distance, casting a soft glow over the ruins of their headquarters. He had failed, not as a hero, but as a friend. He had killed the wrong alien, and in doing so he had nearly torn apart the Avengers. But it wasn't too late. He wasn't giving up. He couldn't. As Spider-Man looked out over the city, a renewed sense of purpose filled him. The road to redemption wasn't easy, and it wouldn't happen overnight, but he was determined to earn back the trust of his team, one step at a time. And if that meant walking the hardest path, then so be it. Because, in the end, every hero has their darkest moments. What matters is how they rise from them. Epilogue. Weeks later, the Avengers stood united once again, not as a perfect team, but as a family that had faced its greatest trials and lived to fight another day. The cracks had been patched, but the scar remained. Spider-Man had learned that being a hero wasn't just about saving the world. It was about facing your mistakes, owning them, and never backing down from the responsibility of being who you are no matter the cost. And while the trust may have been shattered for a moment, the Avengers knew that in time, they would stand stronger than ever before, united by the lessons they had learned and the sacrifices they had made. For Spider-Man, the journey had just begun.